Section 57 of Women of History. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Pamela Krantz. Women of History by Anonymous. Mary Astell. Born 1668, died 1731. Ballard. This great ornament of her sex, the daughter of a merchant in Newcastle, and born about the year 1668, was taught all the accomplishments which were usually learned by young women of her station, and although she proceeded no further in the languages at that time than the learning of the French tongue, yet she afterwards gained some knowledge of the Latin, and having a piercing wit, a solid judgment, and tenacious memory, she made herself a complete mistress of everything she attempted to learn with the greatest ease imaginable. At about 20 years of age she left Newcastle and went to London, where and at Chelsea she spent the remaining part of her life, and where she prosecuted her studies very assiduously, and in a little time made great acquisitions in the sciences. The learning and knowledge which she had gained, together with her great benevolence and generosity of temper, taught her to observe and lament the loss of it in those of her own sex, the want of which, as she justly observed, was the principal cause of their plunging themselves into so many follies and inconveniences. To redress this evil as much as lay in her power, she wrote and published the 2 parts of her ingenious treatise, entitled A Serious Proposal to the Ladies. Afterwards came her letters concerning the love of God between the author of the proposal to the ladies and Mr. John Norris. Notwithstanding her great care to conceal herself, her name was soon discovered and made known to several learned persons, whose restless curiosity would hardly otherwise have been satisfied. These letters have been much applauded for their good sense, sublime thoughts, and fine language. Afterwards she acquired a more complete knowledge of many classic authors: Xenophon, Plato, Heracles, Tully, Seneca, Epictetus, and Antoninus. In 1700 she published her Reflections on Marriage, which was followed by her book against the sectaries, Moderation Truly Stated, a work of which, notwithstanding all the arts she used to conceal herself, she was soon discovered to be the author. Afterwards came her Religion of a Church of England Woman, and her Enquiry into the Causes of Rebellion and Civil War. As her notions and sentiments of religion, piety, charity, humility, friendship, and all the other graces which adorn the good Christian were most refined and sublime, so she possessed these rare and excellent virtues in a degree which would have made her admired and distinguished in an age less degenerate and profane. And though from the very flower of her age she lived and conversed with the fashionable world, amidst all the gaiety, pomp, and pageantry of the great city, yet she well knew how to resist and shun those infatuating snares. To know God and to be like Him was her first and great endeavor. Though easy and affable to others, to herself she was often over severe. In abstinence few or none ever surpassed her, for she would live like a hermit a considerable time together with a crust of bread and water, with a little small beer. And at the time of her highest living she very rarely ate any dinner till night, and then it was by the strictest rules of temperance. She seemed to enjoy an uninterrupted state of health till a few years before her death, when, having one of her breasts cut off, it so much impaired her constitution that she did not long survive it. This was occasioned by a cancer, which she had concealed from the world in such a manner that even few of her most intimate acquaintances knew anything at all of the matter. She dressed and managed it herself, till she plainly perceived there was an absolute necessity for its being cut off, and then, with the most intrepid resolution and courage, she went to the Reverend Mr. Johnson, a gentleman very eminent for his skill in surgery, with only one person to attend her, entreating him to take it off in the most private manner imaginable, and would hardly allow him to have persons whom necessity required to be at the operation. She seemed so regardless of the sufferings or pain she was to undergo, that she refused to have her hands held, and did not discover the least timidity or impatience, but went through the operation without the least struggling or resistance, or even so much as giving a groan or a sigh. Soon after this, her health and strength declined apace, and at length, by a gradual decay of nature, being confined to bed, and finding the time of her dissolution drawing nigh, she ordered her coffin and shroud to be made and brought to her bedside, and there to remain in her view as a constant memento to her of her approaching fate, and that her mind might not deviate or stray one moment from God, its proper object. End of Mary Astell. Recording by Pamela Krantz.